Hello and welcome to North Country Matters. My name is Donna Seymour. I'm a member of the St. Lawrence County League of Women Voters, one of the civic partners for our show. My guest today is Erica LaFountain, the Community Horticulture Educator with Cornell Cooperative Extension here in St. Lawrence County. She's here to talk to us today about putting the fall garden to bed, which is an important part of actually planning for the spring garden season, isn't it, Erica?
It is.
So I'm glad you could make time for us in your busy schedule. Let's start by asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be doing this work at Cornell Cooperative Extension. What is your role there?
So my role is community horticulture educator, and that means that I support the county's home gardeners. Um, I do that by offering classes, by writing articles, and offering one-on-one consultations through our grow line and coordinating the Master Gardener volunteers who also do all of those same things and help me to reach the entire county. The way that I ended up in this role, I just want to start out by saying that I'm a North Country native, grew up in Potsdam, grew up gardening. I did go to Cornell for natural resource management and entered the organic farming world after that, and managed a farm in actually in the city of Boston for many years. When I returned to the North Country, I was really excited to go back to like a home scale, and I love having this role at CCE where I can support other people doing the same thing, use my background in growing, and really just help people make their gardens successful.
So that's really a you've got a great background for this, and you've got lots of experience. And of course, as we know, this is one big county. So one person is hard pressed to be the go-to for everybody in it. But that's where, as you say, the Master Gardener volunteers come in. So tell us about that program, who qualifies, and what role they play in the big picture.
Um, The Master Gardener Volunteer Program is a peer learning network. So everyone who is a Master Gardener volunteer has actually been through a training. It's a pretty long training. We do it over the course of 6 months with weekly classes. And the idea there is that although people come to us usually with a solid background in gardening, they'll always have some gaps, something that they aren't familiar with, making recommendations about pesticides, for example. Some people are ornamental gardeners but have never grown vegetables or aren't familiar with growing fruit trees, for example. So we fill the gaps with that training, with the idea that after the training, these people are ready to fulfill a long-term commitment volunteering in our county, 50 hours a year. Many do much more. Um, and that includes some continuing education. We love to do field trips and just keep our master gardeners learning and keep them getting together and learning from each other. And then they do those same things that I do to reach the community, teaching classes, writing articles, one-on-one consultations. We love having a really diverse set of skills in that group and diverse interests, and ideally also diverse geographically so that we can reach the whole county. But anybody can apply to do the training. I would say that it goes best when the people who are applying already have some background in gardening.
That makes a lot of sense. So tell us a little bit about the training. Is it Are they classes where you have to go? Is it seat time or is it can be virtual training? How does that work?
What we've done the last couple times is a hybrid. So we have an online course that students work through when they're not with me, but they also get together. The last time we did it, we got together on Zoom one week, and then the following week we would get together in person. So we keep up and talk about the materials they're working through on their own, but we also have guest speakers. And supplement it with time together, discussion time, and that kind of thing.
So it is definitely a time commitment to go through the training, and then you've got to also commit to providing those 50 hours a year. And as you say, many people do more than that. So what kind of supports can you provide to gardeners? Give me a for example, the phone, you answer the phone and someone has a question. What's the typical process that you go through?
Yeah, so first off, we support home gardeners. So we do sometimes get calls from commercial farmers, but we try to send those to people who are trained more to give advice on that scale. But so let's say a home gardener calls, they're interested in starting an orchard. They're wondering what they should do ahead of time. We can help them with choosing varieties that do well here. We can give them resources about site assessment and instructions for planting, choosing location. We can also give them follow-up support about management of an orchard. Soil testing information is a big one. Often people are calling us with a plant issue, like a disease or a pest that they're dealing with. But sometimes we get calls with people just starting out, maybe somebody just moved to the area and they're wondering if they can grow something or what varieties do well in their vegetable garden, that kind of thing. And so that support can look like one-on-one consultations, like you said, through our grow line, which is what we call our garden hotline. We have master gardener volunteers who moderate that, and I participate in that as well. We try to answer people within a couple days of them asking a question. And we find resources and or find somebody who's an expert on a topic. We don't have all the answers ourselves, but we make sure that we get something back that's valuable to the person who called. But that support can also look like offering classes in something someone had never even considered trying, um, we just had a class this past spring about edible plants, like foraging for wild plants with an expert forager from the area. So it could be like brand new skills, not necessarily like an issue they're having. And same with our garden topics. It could be tips for fall gardening. We have a blog called the Fruition Blog. Um, and we talk about local food and gardening in that blog. Sometimes we have master gardeners or master food preservers, local farmers contributing to that. So it might start with an inquiry from a community member, or it might start with us knowing there's some information that could be really helpful and putting it out in the world and hoping people benefit from it.
Yeah, and I often see the articles that you folks are putting out. So you're very good about alerting people to the skills that your core group has, and also, in helping out to educate. So we talked about this as being the focus on the fall garden. So talk to us about what should be happening at this time of year as the growing season is winding down and it's time to put the garden to bed for winter. So what are some things people should be thinking about doing?
So one of the main ones is soil testing. Soil testing should be done every 2 to 4 years. That's what we recommend. But it's always a good thing to do if you're starting out growing in a new area, but also in older areas if you haven't done it in recent years. It's a great way to maximize the yield of that area. We talk about yield with growing food, but also just the success and whether your plants thrive if you're doing an ornamental garden. And it's also a great way to save on amendments because it's bad for the environment and for your wallet if you're paying for amendments that actually aren't needed. So it's a great way to know to match the management with the actual conditions you have. And so fall is the best time to do that. The reason is because, well, actually, there are many reasons, but One is if you get your results now, you have lots of time to plan based on those results. You have time to add amendments and have them actually start interacting with the soil and becoming available. A lot of soil labs are less busy now than in the spring, so you can get your results more quickly. And the soil is less soggy now for adding amendments than it can be in the spring. If it turns out that you need to add organic matter based on your results, you have time to add that and have it actually start decomposing over the winter and adding to your soil structure. And also this time of year, amendments tend to be cheaper at the end of the growing season than if you wait until spring. So we recommend doing it now, and contacting us is a great way to get started. We have, because we get so many soil testing inquiries, we have a great email with all the resources you need to get started with good instructions for getting a good soil sample, and then how to send it in. And then we also help with interpreting the results.
So that's really a valuable service, because unless somebody has been doing this for years, I'm sure getting one of those soil test results can be pretty confusing.
They used to be a lot less user-friendly than they are now, but we still find that people do really like having the reassurance of someone walking them through it and helping them choose an actual product that's available here in a quantity that's good for a home gardener. So
Okay.
yeah,
So
we
another thing that people do this time of year is they collect seeds. I know I
yes.
recently collected some milkweed seeds because I wanted to make sure we had a good supply of milkweed for butterflies next year, and that has to be done in the fall. So talk to us a little bit about seed collecting.
Yeah, we actually just had a great seed collecting from native plants class here at CCE. It was wonderful. So yeah, whether you're interested in spreading native seeds in the fall on bare ground to new areas to help them propagate, or if you want to try out winter sowing, you can also frost seed in the early spring. The cycles of freezing and thawing can actually help work seed into the ground if you have some bare ground. If you have plans to do any of that with some native seeds, this is a great time to collect those. We've been collecting seed from the pollinator garden here at CCE, which was created and maintained by Master Gardener volunteers, and we've been collecting brown-eyed Susan, two kinds of milkweed, the butterfly weed and common milkweed, goldenrod, echinacea, and others. And actually, we just had some St. Lawrence University students out here collecting seed and making wild seed packets to distribute. So yeah, that's a really fun activity. Now you do have to wait until around this time of year for the seeds to be mature and to release easily from their seed heads, and the milkweed seeds, which start out in a pod. This is around the time that the pods start to split open and you can separate them from the silky parts inside. So yeah, that's a really fun thing to do in fall, and we're really getting into it this year.
Oh, good. So one of the things we hear a lot about this time of year are the reasons not to rake your yard bare of leaves. So tell us what being a lazy gardener in the fall, why it's a good idea, and who it helps.
Yeah, so when it comes to landscaping, actually one of the most valuable things you can do to support pollinators and other invertebrates is actually just leaving your garden quote unquote messy or just kind of natural in the fall. It provides shelter for all kinds of friendly insects, including pollinators, but also the natural enemies of the pests we deal with in our gardens. So providing both food and shelter for them over the winter is really important to have a robust population the next year. And so that can mean leaving leaves on the ground. It can mean leaving dead plant stems and flower heads standing where they are. It can even mean leaving some wood or logs around, definitely some bare ground, which ground nesting bees need for overwintering. They love to have leaves on top of them to protect them where they are. And I didn't even mention butterflies and moths. They benefit greatly from having the leaves stay there. So um, it's great to leave at least some debris around your yard. And yeah, it benefits the butterflies, the moths, all kinds of native bees that overwinter in those flower heads and in stems. And it benefits the birds as well because they need those seed heads to survive the winter here or to fuel themselves for their fall migration. And you don't have to leave the leaves right where they are. You could rake them into garden beds, but leaving them around so that anything that is developing in the leaves as in a cocoon form will be able to finish that process without being removed. And also, if you're worried about the effect they would have on your lawn, studies have shown that up to about 25% coverage on the lawn of leaves is actually good for the lawn. Those leaves will break down and feed the lawn, adding organic matter and nutrients. More than 25%, and you could end up smothering parts of the lawn. So having a nice dispersed leaf cover is fine. And then if you have more than that, raking it into areas where you have maybe ornamental beds or into a vegetable garden works well.
Okay, so and of course we know that over the winter those leaves they mat down and they get wet, and so in the spring at some point they do have to be cleared off because otherwise you can't get at the ground anymore in order for the plants to come up. So what's kind of a good balance there about how long to leave them in the spring?
Yeah, well, I would say that most of the early plants are very robust. They store a lot of energy in a bulb underground. A lot of them do, and can come up through a mulch. If you've ever grown garlic, you've seen this happen
Mhm.
before, or daffodils, tulips, they come right up through leaves with no issue at all. There may be some more delicate perennials that would need you to actually remove the leaves a little bit to the sides. You can still use it as a mulch. So it's not necessary to completely remove the leaves in order for your plants to come up, but maybe just making space, thinning them out a little bit for some of the more tender early perennials to come up.
Okay, okay, that's good advice. And of course, we know how important it is to protect our pollinators, and pollinators are more than just bees. So, what can we do to help our pollinators not only this fall, but to prepare by planting pollinator plants in the spring, thinking ahead to the spring garden?
Yeah. So there's a lot we can do beyond leaving these wild spaces and the vegetation that I just mentioned. Um, Pollinators of all kinds support us, and so it's really nice to support them in return, not just because they support us, but remembering that they do. We have between 400 and 450 different kinds of wild bee species in just in New York State. Um, they are largely responsible for so much of our food. They say 1 in 3 bites of food that we take here were pollinated by insects. Honeybees certainly help with that. They're non-native bees, but those native bees are a real powerhouse. And I did see a study that showed 110 different kinds of native bees just pollinating apple blossoms in New York. But they need those pollinators. They need food and shelter to take them throughout the year. They are not just here when the apple blossoms are out. Um, they need those pollen and nectar sources, and cultivating native plants can really help with that. Um, and then also just more broadly, um, so native pollinators, we talked about um, uh, we need them and they kind of need us. But they really thrive off of native plants and they have these unique specialist relationships. Most people know about the monarch and the common milkweed and how they kind of have this special relationship, but there are so many other examples of the necessity of native plants in our environment. Nearly every butterfly and moth species requires specific native plants where they will lay their eggs and where their caterpillars feed. Um, so stepping back though from there, um, there's like the native plants, they're not just feeding these pollinators, they're also feeding just the entire food web. They're really the foundation of the entire food web because they feed not just pollinators, but all the insects that then feed the birds, the amphibians, the fish, other insects. So we really can support all of those by providing a diversity of native plants. Other ways that we can support pollinators include leaving some bare ground in our gardens for the ground nesting bees. About 70% of bees are ground nesting bees, so they need that space. Also, mowing high is a great way to preserve some of the low flowering plants in our lawns, like violets and clovers. Um, and then, if you're up for it, leaving some areas of property to just be wild. That's really tends to be the best habitat. And I would say also in a dry year like this one, watering the plants that the flowering plants that the pollinators are visiting enables the plants to have plenty of nectar, and also just having any kind of a water source for the insects to go to can just help support them through a dry time. And then, of course, also not using pesticides unless they're really warranted is a great way to protect them.
Yeah, that's for sure. And talking about the fact that this has been such a dry summer is something that we're not really used to up here. It's really kind of been a very unusual year. So gardeners have had to really think about how they're going to keep their gardens with enough water, haven't they?
Yeah, and after having a really wet year recently, then having this, I believe I heard it was the driest year on record. When you look at June, July, and August, the second driest was in 1944, and we got 5 inches of rain then. This year, in that same time period, was 2 inches. So it's a very significant drought, and even though we've had some rain now, the plants are still stressed and still dealing with those conditions until we've really replenished the groundwater.
Right. And that, of course, if you're talking about the length of time between the last time and this time, not many people are around who have actually gone through those two dry times. So this is a new learning experience for everybody. So winter is not only a great time to rest up from the busy summer and fall, but it's also a good time to plan for the next growing season. What advice do you have for the winter gardener to help to prepare for next year, other than maybe just paging through all those beautiful seed catalogs that are going to start coming in after the first of the year?
That is a really fun time when the seed catalogs start to arrive and you can start to get some inspiration and kind of your hands get itchy for doing some gardening. Um, I think making a good plan if you're going to be having a vegetable garden, if you've had one before, doing a crop rotation so that diseases and pests aren't building up in your beds. Um, it's really fun to choose like one or two new things every year to grow. A lot of our master gardeners, because they really have this love of learning, really enjoy experimenting with a couple new things and sharing that experience with each other. Um, yeah, getting inspiration from seed catalogs. I think it's also a great time to read books, articles, listen to podcasts, watch webinars, anything that'll get you excited and better informed for the coming growing season is great. Um, Having a seed exchange with your friends once your seeds arrive, or you can get really great deals if you if you kind of buy in bulk together and then share seeds. So it's fun to get together with your friends who are gardeners and, sip some tea and divide up your seeds sometime. Um, and I should mention, we're planning a seed swap to be in Canton probably on February 21st in the coming year at the library. And it's going to be a kickoff to having a new seed library there at the Canton Free Library. Um, what else? It's a great time to buy house plants at the end of the growing season. They're always on sale, and it's fun to, learn about growing something new in your home over the winter. Ideally, a plant that can handle the kind of low light and cool windowsills that we have here, dry conditions in the winter.
I just
Um,
brought in my house plants that have been hanging out on my porch all year because we're supposed to get a hard frost tonight, and of course I don't want to lose what I have. So yes, that's a great idea, and keeping some of the ones I've had for, in fact, one of my Christmas cactuses was actually my grandmother's, and my mother kept it for years, and now I have it. So sometimes they're quite heirlooms, so to speak.
yes. Yes, absolutely. I've heard a few stories about Christmas cactuses in particular, people handing them down and they're so easy to take cuttings from too. So it's a
Right.
nice thing to share with other people.
Well, Erica,
Yeah,
thank you so much for coming in today. We're kind of running out of time, so I need to wrap this up. I appreciate you coming in and talking about all this stuff. I know people will be interested to hear it, and we'll put some of the links that you've talked about in terms of how to get a hold of you and get a hold of some of the programs that Cornell is offering to folks in our show notes. So hopefully that will not increase your workload, but you'll get some new inquiries from people who'll be glad for the help. So let me just say thank you again for coming in, and we appreciate all of the information that you've shared with us. We'll put that in contact information in our show notes, and folks will be able to get a hold of you.
all right. Well, thanks for having me, Donna. It was fun.
It was, and maybe we'll get you back in the spring if you're not too busy.
Sounds great.
All
I'll be
right.
back.
Great, thank you. So these conversations are a production of North Country Matters. This show is a civic collaboration between the League of Women Voters of St. Lawrence County and the Potsdam Public Library. Until next time, remember, our North Country matters.